Morning, County Council. Just before we begin, I will note that it was on this date in 1810 that the German festival Oktoberfest was first held in Munich to celebrate the wedding of Bavaria's Crown Prince Ludwig and Princess Therese of Saxe-Hildburghausen. So any of you that are involved with Oktoberfest anywhere, now you know when it started. I don't doubt it. So if you join me, we'll rise and sing the national anthem.
O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you take the roll call, please?
Councillor Mackey,
Present.
Councillor McKay, Councillor Carlton, Councillor Pringle, Councillor McQueen, since his regrets at this time, Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Patterson, Councillor Dickert, Councillor Kentner, Councillor Keaveney,
Present.
Councillor Body, Councillor Gregg, Warden Milne,
Present.
Councillor Dobreen, Councillor Matrosovs, Councillor Bourdignon,
Present.
Councillor Eccles, Councillor Hutchinson.
Present.
So we have all members in attendance with the exception of Councillor McQueen.
Thank you. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, Six Nations of the Grand River, the Haudenosaunee, the Wendat, Wyandot, Wyandot peoples on whose traditional territories we gather and whose ancestors signed treaties with our ancestors. We recognize also the Métis and Inuit whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples. Is there any declaration of interest related to any agenda item this morning? Seeing none, if one should arise during the course of the meeting, you can declare it at that time. We have two sets of minutes to adopt. The first is the County Council and Committee of the Whole minutes dated September 28th. Would someone care to, Councillor Body and Councillor Dobreen? Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. The second set is the closed Committee of the Whole minutes dated September 28th. Someone care to move those? Councillor Patterson and Councillor Nielsen, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. We have no closed meeting matters. We have the Grey Bruce Public Health Board of Health minutes from May 26th, June 23rd, July 28th, and August 11th. We also have Dr. Eyre here, thankfully, to speak to those minutes. Would someone care to move those? Councillor Carlton and Councillor McKay. Would you like to speak to the minutes, Dr. Eyre? Thank you for coming up the hill, so to speak. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. So, Mr. Chair, the highlights from the minutes of the past few meetings lent themselves to two sections, one related to the board, one related to the operation. Related to the board, the highlight was there was addition to a member, provincial member and representative from the community, Nicholas Saunders. His position was approved from a guest to a provincial nominee. And that's one of the milestones in the connection with the work collaboration with the indigenous communities. From the operation, the main highlights are three. One is related to the opioid crisis, and we continue to work with the partners, the municipalities, the two counties, and the provincial level to do our best to reduce the number of deaths and the number of overdose if possible. And the highlight from the statistics was reduction between 21 and 22 by 50%. And the data in 2023 will be very consistent with 2022 and hopefully a bit less, not by 50%, but the trend is going in the right direction. And there are many interventions that are deployed under this category. Open questions after if there is interest. The other update from operation is related to the flu and COVID new vaccine, and it's worth mentioning that the season in general is not different from other seasons for respiratory disease. The reports I read from the Southern Hemisphere would be consistent with normal season, not excessive in any way. Nevertheless, we know that our healthcare system, historically and continues to be stretched during this season. So again, the message to everybody to get their combination vaccine. I learned this term from a very wise man. He said combo vaccine. So there is the health unit is working with partners, and in October, the new vaccine for COVID will be for the priority population, long-term care, retirement homes, and lodges in the First Nation communities. And in late October or early November, the vaccine will be available to the general public, and we're working with primary care and pharmacies to ensure access throughout Grey Groups. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll close my update.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions for Dr. Era regarding those minutes? Councillor Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Warden. Morning, Dr. Era. You mentioned that the reduction in the opioid use. Are there strategies that seem to be working or that we're employing right now? Is it enforcement that's working? Is it some of the medical strategies that are being employed? Can you just tell us what is working and what we can continue to do to help with that crisis?
Thank you. To be specific, the reduction is 50% in death related to opioids. There are many indicators, but this is by far the most important outcome, prevention of death. There are the issue itself with opiate is multifactorial. There are layers to it related to biology and pathology related to social individual behavior. It's very difficult to pinpoint where the benefit is coming from unless you do multivariate analysis. And those things are being done, but will take years to actually see the results that happened last year or the year before. We're not taking anything off the table. We're putting things forward. And I do believe it's my bias and the bias of many people in the field. Prevention is key. It was always been primary prevention, and harm reduction is called secondary prevention. In the past 10 years, rightly so, we, as a system, we push towards harm reduction to protect the people who have already fell off the wagon. People who are struggling with substance use need that medical attention, and that's appropriate. But at the same time, we need to look ahead 5-10 years and prevent the new generation from going that route. And I do believe the combination of these two major strategies are needed. And the physician consultant in the health unit, Dr. Zayed, has been very instrumental in leading the front on prevention and harm reduction, both of them. And that front is also provincial. We're leading a group of 10 health units in Ontario in collaboration with Public Health Ontario on two major research projects. Both of them have been very instrumental. One of them is related to youth prevention of opioid. And again, what we need to do, the specific question you're asking, what we can all of us push towards, I would say the wide array of need, and that could be different from an area to an area. We know bigger urban centers have certain needs, smaller areas have certain needs that are different. And for example, the SOS program that collaboration among many partners, the counties and the paramedics have done a bang up job in leading it and working in it. And this supports that reach out to the vulnerable population that might not really served in big centers. I'll stop there. Again, I'm not sure if I answered the question.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor of receiving the minutes? All that is carried. Thank you, Dr. Era. Appreciate your time. Moving on, we have two bylaws to deal with, both at the same time, I guess. Is that correct? Yes. So the bylaws 5160-23 and 5161-23 be introduced and be taken as read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the warden and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation and engrossed in the bylaw book. Would someone care to move that motion, please? Councillor Mackey and Councillor Dickert. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. News and celebrations, always a highlight of the meeting. Anybody? Councillor Nielsen.
There we go. Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to make note that this past week, Grey Highlands Museum, so it's been renamed from the South Grey Museum to the Grey Highlands Museum, did a grand reopening. The museum caretaker, Peter Whitehead, has done some substantial renovations to the museum and really brought the museum to kind of a professional standard. The curation of the artifacts in the space is well done with stories and plates to give you back to what's happening with the item and what was the history behind it. There's also a fantastic community wall that he's built where members of our community can share their stories of what and why brought them to Grey County, Grey Highlands in general. And I just wanted to kind of highlight that as we move forward with the museum, because next year we'll be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the museum in Flesherton.
Thank you, sir, and congratulations on that milestone. Councillor Carlton.
Thank you, Warden. This Saturday, Georgian Bluffs, in partnership with Cobble Beach, is thrilled to be hosting the inaugural Revolution Fair Plug into the Future, taking place Saturday, October 14th at Cobble Beach. And it was organized by the Climate Action Working Group, and it runs from 11 to 3 on Saturday.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Matrosovs.
Thank you. Through you, the warden, I just would like to be able to share the good news that we had a very successful Open Fields Day on September 30th. And that date was allocated by all of the municipalities across Ontario that were celebrating it in the same way. So I wanted to share that news with my county colleagues to say that it was a phenomenal success. Every participating farm, we had 5 farms, 4 of which were in the Blue Mountains, 1 which was just barely over into the Grey Highlands side, as well as tours of our apple processing plants. We had 6 different stops for members of the public, whether they were visiting or residents, to come and learn more about our agricultural practices. And there was nothing but praise for the event. So I want to share that news because next year there'll be another date. And I would encourage any municipalities within Grey County that are interested in joining on with this and finding out about how the funding was supported for this venture. We can be able to share that with you and farmer to farmer as well. So our host farms will be able to report back the success it was and what it was like to welcome all of these visitors onto their farm. So please reach out if you'd like to hear more. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Counselor McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. A couple things. Grey County Federation of Ag is having a comedy night, Yuck Yucks and the Kinplex in Flesserton just tomorrow night. They're sponsoring the Yuck Yucks comedy series, and I think one of the fellows is from Letterkenny, and it's $55 for a dinner and the evening, and you can get that on the Eventbrite for tickets. Again, that's for tomorrow night. Come on out and support the Grey County Federation of Ag, because the money that's being raised is to build a barn at the Children's Village in I'm trying to think where that down just below Hanover there, the Saugeen's Valley Children's Village, and they have a sort of a barn, but they want to sort of expand it on safety on around the farm and that type of thing. So it's to raise money for that particular purpose. And we had a tour of there this summer, and there's great things that they're doing down there as well. I'm sure everybody is quite familiar with. So again, that's tomorrow night. Funds raised from that is to go toward that. Also, we had our annual Grey County Grey County Ag Services meeting last night. Kim was there and Scott was there. So Grey County does support them greatly, and they're very much appreciated to the support that is provided to Laurie and Ray Robertson and staff. Ray's sort of stepping back more and more as time goes on, but again, they were quite appreciative of that. Ray spoke to 23 years ago how the county stepped up to the plate and provided that space. And Andrew Berry, who's from Omafra, said it's like one of a kind in the province. He is so proud of having this ability to be part of that, what we have here in Grey County. So it's unique. It's not really offered anywhere else in the province. So again, kudos to Grey County and that support that space. And one time Laurie did talk about over 300 agricultural meetings held in that ag office. I know I'm part of Grey County Farm Safety, but there's a lot of Grey County Federation of Ag, but there's a lot of soil and crop. There's a lot of meetings that are held there. And they also have the winter program where they offer a lot of courses, and they raised, I'm not sure, over 22 or 24 different courses were offered there last winter. So check that out. There's a lot of great things coming up for 2024. So again, just want to iterate that they're very supportive of that space, and it continues to be well used and the bottom of the Grey Gables building. So thanks again.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay. Need a motion to adjourn our council meeting portion. Councillor Pringle and Councillor McKay. All those in favor? That is carried. So we'll just take a minute and let Rob switch over to Committee of the Whole. There we go. So I'll bring our Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Is there any declaration of interest related to any item on this agenda? Seeing none, again, if one should arise during the course of the meeting, feel free to declare it. We have 3 delegations today. The first is, I welcome Darlene Lamberti here today. She is from the Center Grey Health Services Foundation, and she wishes to speak to us about the ambulatory care department naming opportunity. Welcome, Darlene.
Thank you. Warden, councillors, CAO, all in present, thank you for having me here today. I am here to bring you good news. Because of your strong ties to healthcare and the generosity that you have shown our foundation in support of the New Markdale Hospital, Center Grey Health Services Foundation would like to extend to you our highest honor and offer you an opportunity to name the ambulatory care department in the New Markdale Hospital. Our ambulatory care department is the largest in all of the Bright Shores rural sites. There are a couple of clinics that run out of this department currently, but there are plans for many, many more to come. We anticipate that this will be a very busy and a high profile department. So it would be our honor to have your plaque on the wall acknowledging the support that Grey County gave to our hospital through the Together in Care campaign. I ask that you consider this offer and confirm that you wish to accept this naming. Does anyone have any questions with this?
Certainly, Darlene, that's a very generous offer. We appreciate that. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Councillor McQueen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you, Darlene, for coming here today, because I know that next to Grey Highlands, Grey County is the second largest donor to that foundation toward that hospital. And I don't know, Mr. Warden, do we need a motion to accept that or discussion? But I think that is something that is much to be in place, and I think we need to be moving forward with that naming opportunity.
Yeah, I think a motion would be appropriate. Are you making a motion? Okay, Councillor McQueen, seconded by Councillor DeBreen. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Excellent. Well, that is very generously, as I said, accepted. Thank you very much, Darlene, for coming and offering that. We support healthcare in Grey County 100%. So I'll just get you to turn that microphone back on.
Go off on me. There we go. I just want to thank you for having me here today and accepting this naming opportunity. We hope that this offer of the departmental naming confirms that Centre Grey Health Services Foundation appreciates your support and considers you a strong partner in regional healthcare. And I also want to thank you for all that you do, because it really matters. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you again, Darlene. Thank you. Oh, Councillor McQueen.
Just to follow up, Mr. Warden and to Darlene. So when this happens, is there going to be a little bit of an event? So when that shows up, then there's naming, is there going to be? Because I think it's important that you, Mr. Warden, would be there. So through you to the speaker.
There we go. When the plaques are manufactured and installed, and thank you very much for putting that up on the screen. That's where the plaque will be housed. You'll see it's right in the main lobby. I would like to have you all in so that you can see it, view the hospital, view your name on the wall, and maybe we'll have a little bit of a celebration. I think that would be a great thing.
Excellent. We're always up for a celebration. Thank you, Darlene. Our second delegation is scheduled for 10:45. Our second delegation is actually the Integrity Commissioner, so I'm thinking they're going to be virtual. So they're not here yet. But our third delegation is Nancy Johnston from Sweeney and Associates, McSweeney and Associates. So I think come on ahead, Nancy. We'll hear your deputation now, and welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Okay, so I just have to. Oh, you're ending the showing. Great. Great.
So Savannah's going to maybe give a little intro here. Maybe I'm not, is that okay? Sure. She says, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Warden and County Council. Really pleased to have Nancy here with us today. She also drove from Ottawa to be here to talk about all of the work that's been done over the last 8 months. I honestly can't believe it's been 8 months. Time has flown, but I feel like we hit gold with the dream team here, working with Nancy and with Kevin and Erica and Ian. It has been just wonderful. So we're going to tag team this a little bit. Nancy's going to talk about all of the things that led to the development of the strategy. And then when I do the council report, I will talk about the strategy items, but she's going to stick around so that we can tag team them as well. So I will hand it over to Nancy.
Thanks, Savannah. So good morning. As Savannah said, I'm Nancy Johnston. I've been the project manager on this strategy since February. First met Savannah and Steve at the EDCO conference. And so we've had a really great relationship, I think, since that point. I'm really happy to be able to present the Economic Development, Tourism and Culture Master Plan. And as Savannah said, just the process really is the first thing that we're going to go through. So Grey County is great. We are the great connectors. So as we understand and know, Grey County covers an expansive geographic area and results in a number of partners, including upper level government, community partners, regional partners, and local government. Along with that, there's 12,295 businesses, 100,000, over 100,000 residents, and 3 million visitors. So that's a lot of people, a lot of organizations. And so together, Grey County and its partners sort of provide the services and set the environment for success. As we are all aware, it's all about building the county. The Great Reset is all about building the county's building on the county's previous departmental strategies. It's also about carrying forward the Made in Grey approach and celebrating what holds on to who Grey is. It's also about providing direction and guidance to Grey County's economic development, tourism, and cultural activities for both the short and long term. As we know, Grey County is a unique and very special place in the world with its stunning natural landscape anchored by Niagara Escarpment and Georgian Bay. And we can really see that today on this beautiful fall day. It has a quality of life that is second to none, where residents can enjoy their everyday life and home at work and the community, and do that with joy. The economic, social, and environmental and cultural fabric has room to grow and really be nurtured and protected. This is just a process that we followed throughout the last 8 months. We did a really extensive document review, which covered approximately 30 documents. And those 30 documents were not just Grey County documents, but also municipal partner documents as well. We set out and discovered sort of what was happening in the community. We created a situational analysis. We defined what the community was all about. So we did consulting with a number of community organizations and people across the Grey County. We developed the plan. We built the plan. We developed a score, which is a SWOT analysis. It's a McSweeney SWOT analysis. It talks about strengths, challenges, opportunities, aspirations, and results. We had a working session. We did staff consultations. We went through committee consultations, developed the actions, the master plan. This is why it's taken about 8 months. And now we're at the point where we're delivering and presenting to council. We developed a situational analysis, and this was a very in-depth, comprehensive situational analysis, sort of based on stats and data. So it was really that quantitative perspective that we were looking at through the situational analysis. It actually is attached to the report. You can take a look at that, and it has quite detailed information. It was really helps highlight what makes Grey County strong, and it really talks about helping to understand sort of the underlying trends in the county and setting a baseline for future investment. So really looking at sort of population growth being as a main one, as being the fact that it has grown quite substantially from 2016 to 2021. On the other hand, we did a consultation process, and that was more around the whole qualitative analysis and just trying to paint a picture of really what Grey County is all about. We did engage 45 participants through one-on-one interviews. Those are phone interviews. We had 60 participants across 8 focus groups, 198 respondents through an online survey, and 45 participants during April's working session. So during these consultations, it was we had questions around both economic development and tourism, as well as Grey Roots. So after that, after all the analysis that we did, we developed the themes and actions. So it was quite an exhaustive consultation process, and we continued with that once the themes and actions were completed. There was an external consultation process, which the Economic Development and Tourism Committee leadership team and McSweeney worked on. There were 7 staff sessions, staff working to take the consultation findings and hone in on the key messages and findings. This was a really collaborative process, it led to co-developed strategic actions. And once completed, there were 3 final reviews were taken with Economic Development, Tourism, Culture, and PDAC. And just to also say that a lot of the consultations that we did were were not involving staff, the original ones, so that we could really have a good idea of what the community is looking for. So from that, we determined priority areas that were really important to Grey County. So they're broken down into economic development and tourism and Grey Routes. So there are 5 priority actions around economic development and tourism. First priority action is leadership and collaboration, and that's really about building cohesion in the county. The second one is about investment ready and being investment ready and building that capacity to attract businesses and be ready for them. The third one is about business retention and expansion, and that is about building pride in the community. Entrepreneurship and innovation is around building networks, and priority 5 is destination development, and that's around building place. So we've got the 5 priorities areas for economic development tourism. We looked at Grey Routes as well. Priority 1 is around leadership and collaboration. And I think the first thing to talk about really is that there's been recent trends in museums that really show an increased focus in displaying and diversity of perspectives. It's more collaborative and experiential. So that really came out in the whole consultation process. So priority 1 around leadership and collaboration is really to have Grey Routes be recognized as a cultural hub. Priority 2 is around inclusive storytelling and presenting the complete story around Grey County. The third one is about interactive experiences and really developing interactive experiences at Grey Routes. The fourth one is around destination development and recognizing that Grey Routes will be a key tourism asset for the county. And the fifth one is around innovative practices and really prioritizing programming and doing things differently. As Savannah mentioned, she will be talking in more detail about the actions that came out of these priority areas. So I just want to, on behalf of McSweeney and the McSweeney team, I just want to thank you for hiring us and working closely with us to develop your economic development, tourism, and culture master plan. It's been a real pleasure working with you and with the community of Grey, and I really want to give a special thanks to Savannah and her team for making the process really enjoyable and smooth and fun. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Nancy. That's a very succinct report there. Thank you for that. And I'm not surprised your comments about Savannah. Her and her team do a wonderful job here for us. Now, noting that Savannah's report is coming, are there any questions or discussion directly related to Nancy's presentation? Not seeing any. Thank you very much. And I understand you will be hanging around. Excellent. I can't speak to what's for lunch, but I'm sure you'll be able to stay for that as well. That's what all of us are here for, right? Okay, so it's not quite 10:45 yet. Sure, let's do the first. You want to go into that? Okay. All right. Well, Savannah, do you want to? We'll go straight into Savannah's report when after Nancy's presentation is fresh in our minds. So the motion is there. It's 7A. Would someone care to move that motion? Councillor Nielsen, Councillor Pringle. Savannah, welcome. Sure, absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sarah. And thank you, Warden and Council. Really proud to be in front of you today and present our proposed economic development, tourism, culture master plan. Like I said, I cannot believe it's been 8 months. It seems like yesterday that we started this process, but it has been full of conversation and consultation. And I think that is so important to the work that we do to really understand what is happening in the environment and figure out how we can best deliver our success. And I'm really proud of the consultation process and the 3 very strategic loops that we did, where it was this constant back and forth to our partners and external community, and then back to staff. And this back and forth really helped us hone in on what was going to be possible at the end of the day. So we were listening to the needs of the community, understanding what has changed and what's different, but then talking to our staff who really are experts in the work that they do and seeing what that final product would be to give the best outcome possible. And not having staff involved in any of those preliminary conversations and consultations was also very important because it meant we had honest input. So I think that is what really grounded the strategy, is the fact that everybody was very, very honest, and they told us the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that was really important for setting the stage for where we are today. So I'm going to take you through some slides. I won't go through all of the details because it is a lengthy document, but I do want to talk about some of the highlights. So thinking of the vision and values. As Grey County and as a corporation, we're going through our strategic planning corporately right now, but we recognize that we're better growing together. And collectively, the values of integrity, collaboration, equity, and sustainability guide our actions and decisions forward. And that is absolutely cemented through this master plan. For economic development, tourism, culture, everything we do is for our people. So collectively, we are working to create an enabling environment for people and business to invest. At the same time, we're working to create a sense of pride and belonging in our communities where people can enjoy their lived experience. In order to realize where we're going, it was also important to realize where we've come from and where that bar is now. So collectively, with the work that our team has done and all of your staff locally, our businesses and community partners, we have raised the bar significantly in the last 5 years. So when we talk about the Great Reset, it isn't about starting from scratch. It's about realizing where we've now set that bar, and that's the new foundation that we're working from. So we want to carry the best of the best work forward. We want to add new focus where it's needed now, and we need to give ourselves permission to say no to things that don't make sense anymore because we've already achieved them, or they just can't be a priority at this given time. So I wanted to share in the PDAC report that we did, there was a lengthy list of some of the highlights that we've achieved collectively over the last 5 years. So I won't go through that, but I did want to share a reflection in terms of the statistics, because I do think that this is really important to understand. All of this has happened while half of the time has been part of a pandemic. So it is significant. We have grown by over 2,000 businesses. Our business enterprise center, so this is 2 staff, have had over 2,500 inquiries. They've had 658 one-hour consultations minimum. They've offered 123 grants and hosted 141 workshops and events. In terms of the digital service squad, we've had 149 business consultations and 21 training events. Thinking of the tourism reach that we've had in the last 5 years on Visit Grey is over 1.3 million that we have reached, and through social media in the last 3 years is over 2.4 million reached. So it is significant. Great Roots visitation, we're over 105,000 visitors. We've had 676 kids camp attendees, over 5,300 education program students come through our doors, and 18,000 plus event and program attendees. In terms of the programs we've offered, we've had 193 education programs. We've done 46 events and 47 exhibits and logged over 25,000 volunteer hours in the last 5 years. So it has been impressive. And I really want to take a moment to realize what has been accomplished in the last 5 years, because it really is a testament to the staff that we have as Team Grey here at Grey County and in our member municipalities and partners. So what is our role? This is a question that we have asked ourselves all the way through this journey. When we look at where Grey County sits, the resources we have, the reach we have, how is it different from our municipalities and our partners so that we can really deliver something that is of value? And one of the biggest things that came out through all of the consultations and discussions we've done is that while we share the same geography, we offer a different view because we're always looking at the regional level and thinking about the regional level, where at the municipal level, you have to be so focused on the ground and so localized. And that mix is really, really important. We need that attention on the ground, but we also need that regional view. And it's when those two pieces come together, that's where we see the magic happen. And that is what is built through this entire master plan. Collaboration is our core mandate. So as the EDCC team, this is what we are telling you we are committed to, that we want to foster a systems approach and work in concert with our colleagues and our partners to share resources, build capacity, and bring value. We're going to focus on internal and external communications to be the best leaders, ambassadors, and champions we can possibly be for Grey County. Talking about priority actions. Oh, that slide looked much better on the printed version, but this is why I don't do tech. So I'm going to take you through the priority actions. They're going to be on the screen, but we're not going to talk about each of them in detail because we'll be here all morning. And I know that you don't want to hear from me for that long. So starting with economic development and tourism priorities, you'll notice through the master plan, it is one master plan, but we have two very distinct sides because we have two very distinct areas in our department. So the first we're going to look at is economic development, tourism. As Nancy mentioned, priority one is all about leadership and collaboration. This is about building our cohesion so that we can speak with one voice in a strong and effective way. We have a couple of examples that we've heard through the consultations process and through the work that we've been doing to realize that there are more opportunities for us to build Team Grey. And that is what priority one is all about. Looking at those opportunities to be able to formally create memorandums of understandings with each of our municipalities, because we know you're all at a different spot and we shouldn't be providing the exact same service every way. We should be looking at what is the best approach for you individually so that we're providing you that service. Priority two, this is a shift. So you'll notice it says investment ready and not investment attraction. We have realized also through all of the work over the last 8 months that we just aren't fully ready for investment attraction. We need to take a step back and focus on the readiness part so that we can build capacity locally across the region and with our partners. So the work that is here is something that I know our member municipalities are very excited about, because this is some of the work that you just don't have the resources on the ground to be able to do. But if we combine our resources and we take a collective approach, we will be in a much better step. It doesn't mean that we will not do any investment attraction activities. It just means that the focus and the priority is on that readiness piece, and where it makes sense. We have a great investment attraction strategy. We'll be able to use that when and where it matters. Priority three is about business retention and expansion. This is absolutely key, and it is about caring for the businesses who already call Grey County home first and foremost. We know that this is where pride is built. This is where our community stands up and celebrates one another and what is possible to do business in Grey. And when a new business is looking to come to Grey, we're not the first ones to get the phone call. It's the businesses are on the ground. So we need to know that they are happy and that things are going well for them. So there's a lot that happens in here through the Made in Grey program, such as job fairs and summits and workshops and the mixers that we host so that we can bring business and government and community partners together in one location. Priority four is around entrepreneurship and innovation. So this really is about building those networks and understanding that there's a lot that we can achieve if we do have local and regional networks as part of one broader strategy and priority. So we're looking at the Business Enterprise Center and Catapult Grey Bruce already do exist as your number one entrepreneurial services, but we want to continue to grow that because, as you've seen, it is working very well. And we're seeing a lot of outcome in our business community, which is speaking to the business growth that we've had. And last but not least, priority five is about destination development. And this one holds a really dear place in my heart, because when we talk about destination development and building a place, it really is about building that lived experience of everyday life that every one of us enjoys and every one of us holds high and is part of what attracts people and retains them here. This is about all of the things that happen inside of work, outside of work, and tourism plays a significant part in this, because when you think of, your after hours from work and where you go to find those enjoyments and where you bring your family and your friends, it is almost all tourism based. So this is a huge bucket, and there's a lot of work to happen in here, but it will have significant impact on our retention abilities as well. Grey Roots Museum and Archives priority actions. You'll notice that some are similar, but they all have a little bit of a different flavor because there's a lot that we can do together. And we realized that by merging the three departments into one. So looking at priority one as leadership and collaboration, this is very much about that hub and spoke model and realizing that Grey Roots is the largest museum we have in the region. We have amazing museums locally, one about to celebrate 50 years, which is very exciting. And what can we do to be able to support our individuals and our museums and our organizations and spread that cultural impact right across Grey County? Inclusive storytelling, the heart of this is all about building and maintaining strong relationships that hopefully one day can turn into partnerships. It is about telling a better story of Grey County, a more inclusive story of Grey County, and bringing the people to the table to do so, so that it's not always us who are charged with that. Interactive experiences, this is something that we have been trialing over the last couple of years, and it is working very well. If you've been out to Grey Roots lately, you've noticed there's a lot more hands-on activity, and that's part of attracting diverse learners and realizing that not everybody takes information in the same way. So we want to continue to hone that and bring more interactive experiences and continue to grow our markets based on this strategy. Destination development is about realizing that Grey Roots is one of our best tourism assets, and it's in our department, which is really amazing. So we want to be able to build that. And we also know that we've lost a lot of our tourism information hubs regionally in the last couple of years. This is an opportunity to bring tourism back to Grey Roots and really create that hub so that all of the visitors who are coming by have the information that they need to be able to go and experience Grey County as a whole. And priority 5 is about looking inward. So this is looking at the business practices that we are doing. And there's a couple big ones in here, but it is about prioritizing program over new construction. So we are giving ourselves permission for the next 5 years to not talk about new builds in Morrison Heritage Village. And you'll notice through the budget process that we've removed all levy contributions for the next 10 years, because we think that that's something we have to do. We need to be able to use the space that we already have and really prioritize programming to get more people in to Grey Roots and more people engaged. So that was a significant change. And we also really want to be able to talk to the NEC about our property permissions to allow us to bring this strategy to life, because right now there's a lot that we would love to be able to do and we just can't. So those are some of the big pieces under the innovative practices. So where will this lead us? What's our vision for the next 10 years? In economic development and tourism, 10 years from now, Grey County, in connection with our member municipalities, will be active as Team Grey. We are now, but we've got so much more that we can do. Where we collaborate through trust and we see mutual success. We speak with one voice, we achieve goals effectively and in a timely manner, and we're sharing our resources so that we're not wasting them. Grey County will share a cohesive vision that's carried out through effective and true collaboration to benefit us all. Grey County and its partners have access to shared tools and resources at their fingertips and have moved from investment readiness to attraction. We'll further diversify, moving clean energy, healthcare, and culture industries from emerging into core sectors, joining alongside agriculture, manufacturing, and tourism to build our robust and foundational economy. Grey and its partners will continue to flex their innovative and entrepreneurial muscle through Sydenham campus to feed thriving regional networks. And our world-class four-season destination is being built through well-planned investment, enriching the lives and experiences of visitors and residents alike. For Grey Roots, 10 years from now, Grey Roots sits in the foreground of culture and connection in the region, leading by example and assisting others to build capacity. Diverse relationships and partnerships are established and incorporated into the heart of operations at Grey Roots. Experiential learning is achieved through workshops, interactive displays, and different methods of programming using arts, technology, and skills. And Grey Roots is top of mind destination for tourists and residents to learn, experience, connect, and reflect. And Grey Roots has more control over site use and can generate more revenue through diverse offerings and increased attendance. So this is where we'd like to be in 10 years from now. Together, we're better. This is Team Grey, and we really are your biggest champions of being Team Grey. And we hope that you feel that when you work with us and when we come to you with updates about the work that's being done. We feel very confident with what we're proposing to you today, and we hope that you feel the same. We've received unanimous support from our economic development, tourism, culture staff, from our member municipality staff, from our planning and economic development committee, and from our community partners. So we feel really good about being able to present this to you today. And they have all had a huge role in developing this. So as Nancy said, we have really tag teamed this process where McSweeney and economic development, tourism, culture staff have worked together on this to make sure that we're bringing you something that fits and that we know and we have confidence in that we can build on and we can actually make an impact for you and your municipalities. So I do want to thank our staff because the expertise, the dedication that they've had in this, it really gives us confidence that we're going to move forward in a meaningful, impactful way to care for our people and our place, past, present, and future. And that is the end of the presentation. And if you have any questions, Nancy and I are here to answer.
Thank you, Savannah, and that is indeed a comprehensive and prideful report. Thank you. So just from the chair, two things. Number one, my my granddaughter loves popsicles, popsicles. Wouldn't it be cool if she could buy a popsicle at the general store in Morston Village? Currently, she can't do that because the NEC says no. So this is notice to the NEC, we're coming for you. And second, there's one line here that just jumps out of me in your report, and I'll paraphrase a little bit, and it says, this plan and its actions gives great confidence that together, and there's that word again, together, we'll move forward in a meaningful and impactful way to care for our people and our place, past, present, and future. That line just jumped out at me, and I thought that says a lot of the report right there. So enough for me. Does anybody have any questions or discussion? Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you very much for that report. Just to follow up on NEC, how are we making out with that? And this may involve Randy. How are we making out with that expansion of the land that's been donated for build out on Grey Routes? That's sort of the future coming forward, right? We need to move forward on that.
Scott, you like to take a run at that, please?
Through you, Mr. Warden, thank you for your question, Councilor McQueen. So there's sort of two phases going on right now to those neighboring lands, what was referred to as the Rawls property. The first phase is working with Grey Routes and the school board to transition the Chesley High Skills Major in Agriculture program. I probably got the order of those words wrong, but they're all in there, I believe. And we've actually pleased to report through the hard work of Jill at Grey Routes, we've just had the development permit applications conditionally approved to be able to transition that that program over to the Grey Routes or over to the Rawls/Grey Routes sites. And the hope is that an agreement will come back before County Council in the next month or so. The Niagara Escarpment Plan amendment application for the broader Rawls property hasn't been submitted yet, but our hope is to do that soon. I realize I've come before this council and our Agricultural Advisory Committee and said that a few times now, but we believe we're getting very close. We have an agreed upon site plan that both the school board, Grey Routes, and the Ag Societies can agree on. So it's up to county staff now to go ahead and submit that application to the NEC and then work through their approvals process.
Thank you, Scott. Anyone? Oh, Councillor McQueen, go ahead.
Well, thank you for that, through you, Mr. Warden, and thank you, Scott, for that update. So I think it's important that a few things move to keep this moving along. I know a number of years back, NEC, and I guess I'll look at my colleague next to me who is a representative on the commission. And I'm not sure if they're getting back into policy meetings throughout the province of Ontario. And those that probably remember, I'm going to say maybe 2014, 15, or maybe there before, they had actually a policy meeting and a regular meeting at Grey Routes. At that time, that was presented with regards to that idea, the plan. At that time, the commission had supported that in principle. Certainly, it's a whole brand new commission. Certainly, I would say on that application to you, Mr. Ward, maybe you need to put on that application that there is some commercial activities, selling popsicles and stuff. And I would also offer that when it comes to the commission, that yourself, I would join you from my experience of being on the NEC and others to make a presentation to the NEC on how important it is to move forward with this, because you have Grey Routes that is doing some remarkable great things over the last 20 years plus or whatever it is. I just think it's important. And I know when they came here and have the I know there was a presentation being at Grey Routes at that meeting at the time. It's about the commission that makes the decision. Certainly the plan is the way it is and stuff like that, but it's the commission makes the decision. And so a delegation in front of that. So I think whenever that comes forward, I think we should think about doing that. And obviously our colleague here, Councillor Nielsen is a representative on that commission along with everyone else. But I think Scott, maybe you might have been at that meeting. There was a few others that were there. I don't know if you were there. I thought we might have been there. But anyway, sometimes you have to present your case, present what you're all about. Because the biggest stumble with the NEC's plan is they do not recognize commercial activities on that. Even if it was for a photo shoot for a wedding that you're not doing anything, they still don't want, it still doesn't recognize that as it exists. You know, it drove me nuts for the 10+ years I was on there, but just because how, you know, it's there to enjoy as well. Anyway, I could go on and on, Mr. Warden, but I think it's important that when that time comes, we really roll up our sleeves and make that presentation, you know, through representatives and staff and everything else, because it is important for our area. It's important for the region. Obviously, you're working with school kids and everything else. And at one time, we did talk about working with the NEC, because at one time they had proposed a center. I think there was a sign just south of Lone Sound, interpretive center. And when they came and we talked, sort of talked a little bit of, could they be involved in part of this growth part as an interpretive center for the NEC? Because, you know, we're smack dab into that. And sometimes working with is better than working against. And so just, you know, through our staff and that, maybe that's some ideas there, because it's celebrating agriculture as part of that, what they want to expand on here. And through, I know the local agricultural society wants to have their fairs there and stuff like that. It's all about showcasing everything about what's good about Grey County and the province and the NEC. So anyway, I'll stop there because I have to continue on, but I think it's you got to show the passion of why it's so important to have that expansion. Plus the donation of that land for that purpose, I think is such a highlight and needs to be recognized. So I know we got to, with that process, you got to keep plugging along, but let's keep plugging along and keep pushing it forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McQueen. Good point. Good, many good points in there. Any other questions for or Councillor Greg? You had a point.
Thanks, Warden Milne. I just want to speak directly to the report here. I've got a couple questions. You did mention why are we not ready for investment attraction as an outcome, or we were not in the last plan? So that's one question, is identifying accountability, I guess, to be placed where it should be. And that's probably at council then, in terms of why were we not ready for investment attraction? There's a couple references in the report speaking to like a senior leadership summit, digital squad. A couple of these speak to potential actions that other partners already do. So I'm going to use Chamber of Commerce's, that's the obvious one. Why would we duplicate something that's already being done when we should be taking more advantage of functions that are probably out there? It's $150 to support a ticket to a Chamber of Commerce dinner, as opposed to many thousands of dollars in creating our own and delivering our own functions. Digital squad. I think back to Digital Main Street, an initiative started by the Wynne government. So it's been in place for many years. Is there overlap with what other arms of government are already doing, and how do you identify that and steer your team away from duplicating and keeping us back on track? Another comment is, I thought maybe we would see a little bit more when we're looking long-term, identifying opportunities or challenges with downtowns. So the consultant would bring a wealth of experience with them. This is a problem that's occurring all over. Not a problem. Well, it is a problem. It's a challenge. A lot of downtowns rely upon mom and pop type establishments, and being able to have these shops continue beyond retirement is a challenge, and then downtowns are left with vacant storefronts. So it's pretty pervasive across Grey County. So are there opportunities? What are we doing to identify initiatives that we can really hone in on, that are measurable in terms of like clear challenges that are very defined right in front of us? I guess that kind of leads me, I find the documents a little bit wordy opposed to like succinct opportunities identified in terms of like a grand vision of economic development. Is there manufacturing capacity that we would look to improve upon? Where would we center that? Industrial processes? And then how would we measure that? Because as it is, it just, to me, seems a little bit just wordy, visionary, instead of incorporating some more clearly defined opportunity. What are we lacking in this area? What are the key things that we're going after? Are we going after nuclear? This is how we're doing it. How are we incorporating that into a master plan? I guess those are my comments. Just there's a little bit of commentary too. I'll just mention, and thank you to CAO Wingrove for providing me the amount of routes for the public transportation, the GTR. There's a reference in the commentary later on in the document about 26,000 rides. I think it's good to always have context. So it's nice to have some just, I guess, acknowledgement of how or what's the expense in terms of generating that 26,000 rides. And it's about 6,800 runs per year to generate that. So just, I guess, context and clear and visionary and definable outcomes is something that I was maybe anticipating more of in the document.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Warden, I am hoping I got them all written down, but I'm going to start backwards. And if I miss anything, let me know. So the commentary at the back where we talk about transit, housing, and climate change, that is specifically because we heard that over and over again through consultation. But when we ask ourselves as economic development, tourism, and culture, what is our role? Those are not our role. There are things that we can do that feed to them and that assist them and help move them along, but taking leadership on those are not an area that our department should focus on. So we included them at the back to be able to highlight what is actually happening in Grey County and where we have an ability to make a difference and make a change. So that's why that full context isn't there. It's just to be able to provide this is happening in Grey so that people are aware, and then we can have more conversation about it when we get there, in which case we pull Stephanie right in because she can speak to it with expertise and I can't. In terms of the sectors that we've outlined specifically, so our core sectors are manufacturing, tourism, agriculture. We're seeing emerging sectors in clean energy and culture industries and in healthcare. Now, healthcare plays a kind of a funny spot because it is a core sector, but the area that we can have influence around the research and the things happening with isotopes, for example, and the work that the city is doing for us to be able to support, that is an emerging side of the healthcare industry. So we haven't, outside of tourism, this document doesn't say we're going to do this for agriculture, we're going to do this for tourism, we're going to do this for clean energy, because all of these actions work to be able to advance all of those different sectors. So the whole point of the priority actions that we have in here are what can we pick and choose at the proper time with the proper partners to advance those sectors forward. So that's why you don't see sections specific to each sector. In terms of the investment readiness, we need land, we need resources, we need serviced land available, and we don't have it. We are turning inquiries away because we just don't have the space, and it takes a long time to get the land ready. And we know some of the large projects like RTC Energy, the proposed pump storage project, that is going to need a lot of space. When we were working with Bruce Power and the Clean Energy Frontier, the work that we did looking at what land and buildings we had available, the list was minimal. Now, Owen Sound's in a better spot because you do have those large industrial parcels and buildings that were there, and you made a good decision not to get rid of them. So now you can refill them, and they are being filled. So that is an investment readiness piece, but not everybody has that ability. And then we think of Southgate, and look how far you've gone in selling all of your future development opportunities. Like they're gone. You had a lot and now they're gone. So there's a lot of work that we need to be able to do collectively, but that's going to take looking at all of the partnerships municipally, because a lot of that development area is right on the edge of municipalities. So that's part of why you see the note about municipal partnerships and or boundary adjustment case studies that we can do and tours that we can bring you on to be able to show you what's worked elsewhere in hopes that we can unlock some of that development potential that we have around the area. On the investment inquiry side too, normally when an investor comes, we have about 24 hours to have everything ready in front of them, and staff need to be there and ready to tour. And we also don't have that capacity. Most of our member municipalities don't have an EDO. They don't have a tourism person. Their CAO is wearing multiple hats. All of your staff are wearing multiple hats. So we really considered the resources available with our team and all of your teams and our community partners, realizing everyone is at capacity. So trying to figure out what was realistic. And that's why we are taking that step back to the investment readiness side. In terms of the downtowns, again, thinking about what is the role that the county can play in that, knowing that those downtowns are in your municipalities, is work through the Business Enterprise Center and helping businesses grow, helping them start up. We know there's a real appetite for bricks and mortar businesses. COVID has shown us that people want to be together. They want to be downtown. They want to be able to be in an area that has mass. So that is an area that we're able to help. In terms of festivals and events, that's not something that we would be doing, but it's certainly something that we can promote through the tourism arm of the department. The Digital Service Squad is actually the provincial program, so that is what we run. We don't have a separate project that we were funded by the ministry to do that. That funding runs out mid-year next year. We're hopeful that it will come back, but at this point, we don't have any indication that it will. So that's part of the advocacy role of us saying we see real value in here. Same with our Business Enterprise Center. That is provincially funded. We do have to top that up because our funding does not keep up with the cost. It's been reduced a couple of times, and we're still waiting on word that we'll get the contract back next year. So that's a risk that we'll talk to you about at budget time. But we're definitely not recreating the wheel on any of those. And I think we spent a lot of time working with staff and partners, making sure that everything in here was something that was new or something that was different. So when we look at the annual leadership forum, that's for you, for your councils, for your senior leadership staff, and for our leadership staff to talk about these things. And how do we move forward and become investment ready? How do we build Team Gray? How do we share a voice? When we're thinking about advocacy opportunities, what is it that really is the pain point that we can do work on to be able to go forward, whether it's through our CAO at AMO or through other realms that we have through Western Ontario Wardens Caucus or others. But it can also go down to the ground or to our community partners. So Georgian College, for example, the advocacy work that we've done around that, realizing through consultation with our business and our sector roundtables, that there's a lot that we can do. So it was putting that business case together and bringing it forward. But that's not an opportunity for public, that leadership forum, that is for you and for staff to be able to really have those discussions. And that's why if you look at the evaluation component, we don't have separate evaluation recommendations. We've built the evaluation into the items that we're doing as part of the strategy, because we want to make sure that it's constant. We're constantly checking in. We're looking at the stats. We're having conversations with you and with our partners to make sure we're moving the bar where it needs to go. And that gives us the flexibility to maneuver if we need to. Did I miss anything? No.
Oh, thanks for that response, Savannah. Appreciate it.
Good questions, good answers. Thank you. Councillor Mattersoff, you had a point.
Thank you. Through you, the chair, to Ms. Myers. Thank you. It was a delight to read this material. I was really excited to see what you're proposing in terms of the shifting and the refocusing that you're doing. Certainly, I advocate the same as you, that success breeds success, that the businesses need to be in a healthy state in order to be able to say, yeah, this is a great place to do business. You should bring yours here too. It's painful to us when we have existing businesses who, I'm thinking of an example in the Blue Mountains where they can't take on a third shift and they have to turn down $10,000 contracts because they can't find people who can come here and find a place that they can actually live. And these are professionals trying to come to this area. So with that, my second point is I appreciate the way that you've presented the housing component as the section, the way in which it's been designed, because I think it's important not to dilute the leadership capacity that you have within your economic development field. But at the same time, it's a statement that we are not working in silos here in Grey County, that we have interdepartmental leadership collaborating with each other saying, this particular item we need your help on, or could you please build your programming so it matches what we're trying to do? That's vital when The federal MPs of the Liberal caucus came in late summer, came and did the Ontario members of the federal Liberals came and did their annual caucus meeting. They came to the Blue Mountains to do that. And they invited local mayors to come and speak about economic development. That was the topic. And each one of us, myself, Mayor Hamlin and Mayor Measures, each one of us got up there and said, great, you want to talk about economic development? Let's talk about housing. So I really appreciate that this document is reflecting that same momentum that we're all trying to say that it needs to be done that, but that you're being careful not to say, we'll do it all, that it has to be done in conjunction. I'm also really pleased to see that your shift to programming versus building more. I think both with Grey Roots, but all of our experiential tourism, for example, in, all of the independent businesses that are up and operating in each one of our municipalities have so much to offer if they can build their own capacity. And I think that's a really healthy way to do it. We are getting close to 3 million visitors annually over in the town of Blue Mountains, and nothing would make me happier is to keep them moving to enhance their experience further and further into Grey County, and not just by default, just looking backwards into Simcoe County and never getting as far as such as the gems like Grey Roots that we have. So I think by providing more and more programming, putting that out there, it is going to draw that. We don't have to work hard at bringing tourists here. They're already here. What we need to do is work collaboratively to bring them through all of our 9 municipalities and share with each other and get them launching from whatever direction they come, whether they come into Southgate or come into the Blue Mountains or from any other direction over on the Bruce County side, that they want to keep moving because there's more to explore. So thank you for all this work.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much, Savannah. So our second delegation is here now. So I'm thinking it shouldn't take too long. Why don't we do that delegation and then have a break? Or if anybody feels strongly, we could do the break now. Let's do the delegation now. Okay, so the delegation is Janice Atwood Petkovsky, and I think it's just Janice. Jeffrey isn't with her today, from Principles Integrity, with the annual commissioners report. So Janice, welcome. You're online, and
thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Yes, Jeff's not available this morning, but Jeff and I form the firm Principles Integrity, and we are your integrity commissioner and have been since 2018. So we bring before you this morning our annual report, and we always try to put a bit of information in here for really the public to understand the role of an integrity commissioner as much as anything. So integrity commissioners are a mandatory accountability officer that municipalities are required to have. And we serve a number of functions. We're available to assist on the development of policies that have an ethical perspective, to provide education and training, and very importantly, to provide confidential advice to individual members of council and local boards on request regarding their conduct or occurrences under the Code of Conduct and their obligations with respect to conflicts of interest and recognizing those. And then we are the mechanism that can look at complaints under those documents and determine whether an investigation is warranted, and if so, conduct that investigation and provide a public report to council at the conclusion. So our annual report speaks to those issues and outlines our role and function. And we think this is basically for Grey County Council a good news report. We think that the framework and structure is functioning as it was intended to, and that is the emphasis is on education, training, and advice, and the residual ability to conduct investigations is often not required. And so in terms of the statistics in this report, you'll see that we had the opportunity to provide education and training immediately following the municipal elections of 2022 in December of this past year, and which was well attended. And in the period covered by this annual report, we've had the opportunity to provide advice to members of council on 3 occasions. And we don't talk about the details of the advice that we give, because our obligations are to maintain confidentiality, and often that would reveal information about individual members. But much of the advice that we provide is often with regard to avoiding conflicts of interest. That's pretty much a standard area of interest and advice. And in terms of complaints that we have administered or looked at, we've had 2 complaints brought to our attention during the course of the past period covered by this annual report, which is really the past year. And in one case, the report following an investigation was brought to council. And so that matter was an opportunity for some takeaways. And in the second instance, the matter, when we took a closer look, was not within scope or jurisdiction, and so no investigation was conducted. So one of the things that we are able to do from our vantage point, we serve about 50 municipalities, and one of the things that we're able to do is to share some of our, observations around the province. And so we share some of those in our annual report back to you. And there are probably no huge surprises here for those who are sort of dialed into these issues around the province. One area of concern is that councils should at all times avoid leaking confidential information, and that is information that's provided in closed or information in discussions that are confidential. And there are a number of reasons for that, not the least of which is if there is a sense that members may be disclosing information that's provided confidentially in closed session, there will be a reluctance on the part of staff to fully reveal legal strategies and that kind of a thing. So it's important to maintain confidentiality of closed meetings, and that's certainly one of the takeaways that we see. Another frequent source of friction is members engaging in disrespectful or disparaging conduct or communications, whether that's interactions with the public or with staff or with each other. And we say it's important to avoid the kind of behavior that really amounts to harassment. Sometimes it's mere incivility, but if it's frequent and if it's condoned, it can really rise to bullying and harassment very quickly. Even microaggressions, if ignored and left unchecked, can create a very difficult work environment. We note in passing that Bill 5, which was intended to provide an opportunity for council to have a matter taken to court to remove a member of council for egregious conduct, that bill failed on second reading. We were not disappointed at all to see that. We think that there are better avenues to pursue putting proper mechanisms in place for council to be able to constrain or provide remediation to misconduct when it is egregious. We think minor amendments to the Municipal Act or even regulatory amendments would suffice. We also think that the proposal to have these matters go off to court created an opportunity for a very lengthy, prolonged, and expensive mechanism that might or might not ever result in a member being removed. So there was a lot of, I would say, a lot of noise around this particular bill when it was tabled. We think there are much better mechanisms if the province would revisit the inputs and submissions it received during its broad consultation, which occurred a couple of years ago. We think that there's much better solutions. For example, just in passing, under the Education Act, school boards have the ability to remove a trustee from a committee. They have the ability to prohibit a trustee from attending a board meeting. We think if councils were imbued with those powers under the Municipal Act, that would be much better as a course to constrain the behavior of a member if it was outlandish or egregious, that type of thing. So we think there's better solutions than that bill provided. So it was not, we were not sorry to see that bill die in second reading. Another area that is key is for members to recognize and avoid conflicts of interest. And I think this is something that we've stressed throughout our training with councils following the elections in orientation. And we haven't seen concerns or issues arise in Great County in this regard. So we think all in all, this is a good news report for council. It's sort of a good housekeeping, if you will, seal of approval that things seem to be functioning from our perspective very much the way they should. Individual members seem to, when issues arise, reach out to us and get the advice that they need to avoid any transgressions. So we're happy to answer any questions, and we're happy to serve you as your integrity commissioner.
Well, certainly. Thank you, Janice, for your report. It's, as you say, a good news story. Are there any questions for Janice? Okay. Clerk wishes to address council.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I just wanted to bring to council's attention that we have worked with Principals Integrity for the last 5 years. They were appointed in 2018. So their appointment is expiring at the end of 2023, but staff will be bringing forward a report at the next meeting on next steps for appointing an integrity commissioner for another term. So we thank principals for all their great work and are very grateful for all that they've done last term.
Thank you, Tara. So, not seeing any questions, I will thank you, Janice, and please extend our thanks to Jeffrey as well. We
Yes, I will.
appreciate
Thank
all
you.
your efforts. Okay, let's it's a little past 11. Why don't we see if we can be back in our chairs by 11:30, and we'll proceed with our meeting. So let's break for a few minutes. Oh, we need a motion to receive that report. Sorry, I apologize. Councillor Eccles and Councillor Matrosov, all in favor? That is carried. I guess I was a little too anxious to get to that break. Well, let's have the break now. Thank you. So if we could start back towards our chairs, that would be good. We're missing a couple, but I think we got enough to get going. So I'll just wait for Rob to give me the go ahead. Thank you, Rob. So we'll bring the meeting back to order. Thank you. Our next item of business is determination of items requiring separate discussion. Does anybody wish to remove any item from the consent agenda for further discussion? Councillor Gregg.
6A, please.
6A. All right, thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing. Would someone care to move acceptance of the consent? Councillor Patterson and Councillor Dickard. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. So our first, well, I guess it's really the second, but we've already done the first one, is the report 7B, the condominium exemption request process change. Someone care to move that, please? Councillor Carlton? And Councillor Pringle. Thank you. So, welcome, Scott. It's not quite lunchtime yet, but it's good to see you nonetheless.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and good morning, Warden and members of County Council. I'm glad I've got a little bit of runway before lunchtime, but this is a brief one, I promise. So what we have before us is a report with respect to a delegation request of approval authority back to staff for a very niche topic. Currently, staff had delegated authority to approve condominium exemption requests where there's support from the member municipality for a number of different types of condominiums, including standard condominiums, common elements condominiums, but not including vacant land plans of condominiums. And again, this is getting very niche into a planning topic. We have had some recent requests from a few different developers asking if this could be included as part of the staff delegated condominium exemption requests. And I should just back up a bit here for council's benefit. Where staff approve a condominium exemption, this is an approval that would exempt them from a number of steps in the approvals process, including a public process, including draft plan approval. It essentially bypasses a number of those steps and goes right to the final approval and final registration. But it can only do so where we've already had another sister planning application with a public process. So it could be that you've already dealt with a zoning bylaw amendment at your municipal table. You've already had the public meeting. We've gotten the feedback from the public. And then this is more of an administrative detail with respect to the ownership of the unit. So one common process is we would have a developer go through a plan of subdivision application and a zoning amendment. That plan of subdivision and the zoning would speak to a certain block of land being used for multi-residential purposes. At the time of the zoning, at the time of the subdivision, there is knowledge from the public and staff and council to say, yep, this block of land in the northwest corner is going to be for multi-residential. It's going to be, maybe 12 to 14 units, depending on the final form of the development. That all gets approved by your municipal councils. In the case of a plan of subdivision, it would get approved by county committee of the whole. And then you would work through the various processes, including a subdivision agreement and in some cases, a site plan agreement. The developer would come in then at the very end of the process if they were applying for, say, a standard plan, a condominium exemption process, and show that they have support through the municipality. They would show that they have all the administrative details tied up either in the site plan agreement or the subdivision agreement. And really it would be just sort of formalizing that ownership model for that multi-residential block of land. The current application process for the county, as I said, exempts vacant land plans of condominium and exempts other forms of development whereby certain criteria have been met. So county staff are of the opinion that if we can demonstrate that those criteria have been met, if we can demonstrate that we have support from the member municipality that's hosting the development, then there's no practical reason why we couldn't also include vacant land plans of condominium in this regard. It would also align nicely with some of the province's recent legislative and policy changes, which are all gearing towards getting development approvals in a quicker, more efficient fashion. So that's sort of the Coles notes here, but certainly be happy to take any questions if there are any. Oh, just before I do, I should say that legal services staff have been tremendously helpful in drafting this report and making sure we have all our legal bases covered. So I'd like to thank Michael Letourneau for his support and help on this one.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Scott. Next item is 7C. It's a report regarding Gray Road 119 and the speed limit in Banks. Someone care to move this, please? Councillor Nielsen and Councillor Mackey. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. As the warden said, yes, this is came out of that delegation for the speed limit in Banks. So you'll have your report here on page 275, TRCW 21-23. So if you look at page 276, all the factors that go into our Transportation Association of Canada's spreadsheet that kind of you put your factors in and it kind of spits out a recommended speed at the bottom. Is kind of the way it works. There's additional factors in our own policy that end up setting our speed that way. So even though it is a spreadsheet, there is some kind of interpretation on our part, you know, whether something is a high risk or a low risk. So that's kind of what we go by our policy. We put, you know, these factors down. Like it just kind of ends up, you know, you start, say, if you have an arterial road that's an 80, the more things that you put in that are sort of a hazard, it just kind of starts to drop it. You know, horizontal geometry issues, curves, vertical curves, you know, roadside hazards. If there was a whole bunch of trees right there or a pond near the edge, it could be a hazard for somebody, cyclists and pedestrians, additional intersections, a whole bunch of entrances. And so that's why as areas get more built up, the speeds typically drop. So I just want to talk a little bit more about driver behavior. So we get a lot of requests to lower speed, and everybody that makes those requests, they kind of think if we change the speed, then everyone's going to drive that speed. That really isn't the case. 85% of people are speeding, but that includes people speeding 1 kilometer over as well. So the industry kind of uses like the 85th percentile to say, okay, 85% of drivers are going, you know, below this speed. And just to show you how little drivers adhere to the posted speed, in August 23 on 119, there was someone clocked doing 129 in the 60. They ended up, they were from Owen Sound. I think the police didn't pursue them and ended up charging them later at their house in Owen Sound because they had their license plate. And another thing, I don't know if it's just been transportation guys keeping up on this news lately, but there's been a huge thing in Wales lately. So the government has put a lot of the built up speed areas from 30 to 20. And just the same as here, some people are really supportive of that. Some people are just dead set against it. So even in Wales, 450,000 people have signed signatures against it, which is a quarter of their drivers. So somebody thinks going from 30 to 20 is a good idea, but at least a quarter of the drivers think it isn't a good idea. And so clearly people aren't going to go that if they don't think it's a good idea. They've even had protests where they go on the highway and they're all driving 50. Just to tell the government that they don't like this speed. And people don't like rules to a certain extent, right? You like a rule when you agree with it, but when you don't agree with it, you don't want to do it. So it isn't just a gray problem, right? It isn't just a Blue Mountain problem. It's everywhere in the world that some people are really concerned with speeding and some are not. The one thing everyone can agree on is if it results in an accident, the slower you're going, the safer it is for everyone involved, right? So it's in everyone's interest to drive slower. It's just sometimes if the speed is too slow, does that create more accidents? So we've noticed some places we posted speed way below what our policy says. It doesn't seem to have any effect. People just drive what they were driving before. So we're hesitant to do that because then you get a whole bunch of people lined up behind the guy who is going the speed limit. And then they want to pass everybody. So maybe it creates more of a hazard. So we try to avoid that differential in speed. Now, just to add the current area here on 119, so we've received a lot of correspondence for and against speeding when we first lowered the speed on it. Of course, we just paved the road as well. So it seemed like you could go faster. People felt quite comfortable going fast. It has paved shoulders. It's quite a nice road. People are trying to get to the Blue Mountain. They don't want to delay their trip. You know, we had a lot of people really against us lowering the speed in a few places. So we did some data after the delegation. So we're about 71% of people speeding in Banks, which is lower than our typical average. And the average speed is about 75. But it's a four-way stop there, posted 70, people going 75 kind of makes sense. It's you know, a lot of people are already starting to slow down. Some people, like my daughter maybe just jams on the brakes at the last minute right before the stop sign, right? So hope she's not watching. And there in Banks, like 85% of people are going below 84. So a lot of people do that too, right? Like, you know, the speed limit 70, you set your cruise to 84 because you think you're not going to lose points if you do get a ticket, they're probably not going to pull you over. So there's all that stuff, right? So we kind of went over the road a little bit, and there is this section that we had kind of west of Banks that was 60. And that was really at the time chosen because there is two vertical curves that are you just can't quite have a stopping sight distance. But we had kind of had a rethink of those. Those can be handled with a warning sign. So our recommendation is to put a warning sign on the areas that kind of have a little bit of a vertical hazard. Turn that 60 zone into a 70. The area around Banks, I know the delegation was hoping it was be a 50, but we'd like to take it from a 70 to a 60. We feel like a 50 is just too low. A 60 is a little bit lower. It's a slightly built up area. It's a long way from being a hamlet, of course, but there is people there that are, you know, living there, and there's a four-way stop there, and the school bus is there and that type of thing. So we're recommending a 60. And the other thing I just wanted to mention that we did at the four-way stop, we did bring flashers in just to give people that little bit farther to see the stop sign, the flashing beacons, and then school bus ahead signs, because we know there's school bus traffic there. And that is consistent with our other four-way stops, which we don't have many of. But Katy, for example, has the flashing beacon as well. That's another four-way stop we have. So we felt it was consistent with that. We're not going outside, just going willy-nilly off our policy just based on one person's request. So we feel like it still adheres to our policy, but I think people should be marginally happier, the residents hopefully with the new situation. So how we would implement that, the next time our 4788-13 comes through, which should be early in the new year, I would think, because there's some parking changes that need to come through and a couple other speed type changes. There's always something that kind of, you know, needs a little tweaking. So next time we bring that, we would be implementing these changes at that time. So that's our recommendation.
Thank you, Pat. Marginally happy. That's good. That's what we want. Any questions? Not seeing any, Councillor Matrosovs.
Thank you. Through you, the chair. I do have an amendment to the main motion that I would like to move. And if you would like, I will move the amendment and speak after if there's a seconder and it's on. Okay, so my amendment would be to keep everything within the recommendation the way that it's written with the amendment, but to amend table 2 to 50 kilometers per hour from 300 meters west of Banks to 365 meters east of Banks. That's the sole change that I'm looking for on this particular thing, and I'm happy to support it with my rationale if it's seconded.
Okay, we have a motion to amend. Is there a seconder for that amendment? Oh, Councillor Bornagno. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, perhaps you'd like to describe your rationale, please.
Great, thank you very much. Through the chair, to Mr. Hoy, Director Hoy, but also to my colleagues. First of all, I thank staff for not just the report that's come forward, but the time that you've spent with me to help me understand. I've learned a lot in terms of the process and the formulas and how things work, but also to be, as you mentioned, considering that there's always an interpretation to the Excel charts as well. So I think on that note, there are 3 points, the reasons why I'm going to see if my colleagues agree to the amendment that I proposed is number one is, yes, it's about a change in driver behavior. And certainly the fact that there is a proposal mine is for 50 kilometers, but even this, the main motion of 60 kilometers, the fact that there's a decrease is a signal. It punctuates that families live there, that there's something of significance, that you have to do your driver behavior a little differently because something is coming up ahead. And I speak only with the example of Banks because that's what the report is, but I echo it for all of our smaller communities along rural roads. It pains me when people say, you hear them acknowledging that they changed their driver behavior because it's, in quotation marks, just a rural road. And that really bothers me, that the same child that lives there doesn't get the same kind of recognition as the child that's living in an urban area. And that's a concern I share for across all of our 9 municipalities. So I believe by doing a drop, whichever drop it ends up being supported, will send out that signal in conjunction with the signage. And as well, I think that's a really good formula I'm very much appreciative of the new signs that already exist to be able to signal to people that there is that 4-way stop coming up, that is a school bus zone, but then also hearing about the consideration about warning signs, how you can do a warning sign. I think that helps the law abiding or the maybe only slightly over, not the stunt drivers. That helps the people who drive above the speed limit, but are trying to pay attention to it. And the reason I'm not asking for any other changes to the table is because I believe the change to 70 before Banks and 70 after Banks really helps eliminate the confusion, because I live there. I use that road when I have to, but actually it's not the best route to get to Blue Mountain. The best route is to go down Gray Road 40 and on to 26. But I live there and I have to focus and make sure I'm following the existing up and down of the kilometer signs, the speed limit signs. So I think it's very helpful to provide that consistency, and that's why I'm leaving that one there. Number 2 is that we do have OPP presence. They can't be there all the time, but we do have a history of being there, and 50 kilometers per hour would give them more teeth. It would mean that when somebody is really excessively going over the speed, that now that could actually make and break the difference. And maybe somebody will think twice about how fast they're going there. It would give them the clout. It would give them the ability to actually pursue what is a fair a fair assignment according to the over limit that's been committed. And the third one is that it would send a message to Google Maps and all the others in terms of the algorithm, because if it continues to pick this up as the best route to get to Blue Mountains, it's wrong. It's not the best route. The best route is down Gray Road 2, onto Gray Road 40, onto 26, and you're at the base of the mountain, especially in bad weather. So, or use Gray Road 19, depending on where it is you're trying to go through. So there are 2 really valuable routes that Grey County already supports. And I would like, that's my third rationale to do that it would actually start to tweak that algorithm, and the automated systems that send out your best route would start reconsidering that one because of the extra drop to 50 kilometers. There certainly have been, even in 2023, when I hear of the incidents that are shared with me, this crash hit a hydro pole, this crash hit a tree. This is just 2023, just focusing on those. That could have been a person. It could have been equestrian, could have been our horse traffic. It could have been a person. It could have been another vehicle. We were lucky it was only a tree or a hydro pole. So thank you very much, Warden.
Thank you, Andrea. Any other questions related to the amendment? Councillor McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Just a clarity. So looking at table 2, right now it's recommending 0.365 meters east of the intersection of Route 19 at the 4th line to be 60, and your amendment is to change that to 50. Just for clarity, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gregg.
Thanks, Warden Mill. I won't support the amendment. There has to be a rationale in terms of our decision-making processes, and a somewhat of a policy or some sort of a framework that we apply. Otherwise, if we're going on simply an emotional level, we won't stop around Grey County on every road. I can just think of pretty much nonstop on Gray Road 1 in its full continuity, Island View Drive. the amount of residences along that stretch, you might as well make it entirely a 50 zone, or you're setting yourself up for a resident after a resident after a resident to come forward and ask you to make it a 50, and you don't have a whole lot to lean on if you're basing your decisions off emotion. I will note at the AMO conference, I sat in on a conference curbing driving behaviors. 55% of drivers at the age of 18 to 34 when leaving an automated speed enforcement zone, and I think of a stop sign in somewhat the same context, are more likely to speed up to make up for the time loss as they have been trying to go through the patrolled area more at a slower rate. 49% of those are males, 48% of those are non-GTA. So these are driving behaviors that are not specific to any particular demographic. They're broad. The rationale for table 2 is based on engineering principles, and you've got to have something to lean on. So it's a driving behavior. People speed up. At the end of the day, it will be further enforcement by the OPP and you're in the lower tier municipality to curb anything. But those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments, questions on the amendment itself? Councillor Nielsen.
Thank you, Warden Milne. A question for Director Hoy, if I may. Councillor Gregg's bringing up a good point in terms of rationale and your policies and procedures that exist. Having been at the last couple of Good Road conferences and such, there's a conversation around the policies that exist are around the car itself and not the pedestrians. And as we look at interactions between those two elements, there's suggested changes in policies to consider the pedestrian when it comes to the roadway, whereas a lot of our roadways, especially county roads, which are your thoroughfares, your objective is moving traffic. Can you just speak to the policies that exist now and the relationship between whether the policies are there in place for the car and the protection of the car and the efficiency of the car, or whether there's conversation or at least part of the policy does reflect on the pedestrian interaction with the roadway?
Yes, I could comment on that. Like our thinking, the right of way is for everybody, right? So everybody gets to use it, whether it's an agriculture vehicle or Mennonites, old order folks, pedestrians, cyclists, guy on a scooter, e-bikes. So we're kind of thinking of everybody's safety, but you're always towing that line where people do need to get where they're going. Like even looking at Savannah's presentation, how many people work away from the municipality? The number is quite shocking, really, how many people have to drive to work somewhere. And they want to get there, right? So we're always kind of in towing that line on trying to make everyone as safe as they can. We just feel if we lower the speed limits too much, nobody's going to go it anyway. And those factors are in our policy as far as if there's a road with a lot of cyclists on it, if there's a road with a lot of pedestrians, a lot of intersections, a lot of driveways, the speed kind of gets pulled down that way. So all those factors do kind of come in. Again, we sometimes have to do some legwork because I don't live there. You don't know exactly how many pedestrians there are unless you're out there. We don't really count pedestrians. We typically count vehicles. So I think those policies or those factors are brought in. But again, people who maybe are new to the area are surprised by the speed of rural vehicles. Because like the road I live on, Georgian Bluffs, is a 60. Most people aren't going 60. Like some people are going 100. Like, you do feel uncomfortable when they drive by you, you're walking your dog or whatever. But it's hard to control that. And we kind of feel like, and we've talked to the OPP about this, sometimes creating an artificially low speed zone that nobody adheres to, I don't think it makes their job any easier. Are they supposed to ticket every car that drives by? So that's why we do the best we can with our policy. Again, like with an international problem, why does any car go over 110 at all? Shouldn't that be in the auto plant to do that? Like no one has to go over 110. So why do they? I don't know. Why are you asking? Like every driver still wants their own behavior, right? So like, it's one of those questions that it's hard to have an answer, but we do factor in all the groups that are on the road.
Thank you, Pat. Any other questions? Counselor DeBreen.
Thank you through you, Warden. Is there a map that shows, and I'm pretty sure there was one, but I couldn't find it when I was reviewing it recently, that would show what it was at currently and what you're proposing, because you're changing, you're going up from a 60 to a 70, you're going up from a 50 to a 70, but the section of the road is different than what you're proposing. And I think I would be able to understand it better with a visual. Sorry to kind of land that on you at the last minute, and it could be after the fact.
Does anybody have access to something like that? Oh, okay. Sarah's gonna try to find something. Oh, Pat has, it. Okay.
Yeah, and I will apologize for that because it would have been nice to get another map into this report because we have done it in the past. Well, this is what, the 5th time 119's been back. So we have done that for other reports. We didn't do it this time. We were just a bit under the time crunch and we don't do our own maps anymore. GIS does, and it's just a little, so we could produce that. We have a little map in there showing where we were recommending the 60 in the attachments. But as far as from one and the other, showing what they were and what they, typically in the 4788, we do that when we bring that report back. But since this was kind of a different one, we didn't, but we probably should have. So I apologize for that. That is a good point.
Okay. Thanks, Andrea, for helping there. All right, on the amendment itself, any further discussion? I'll call the question on the amendment. All those in favor? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Anyone else want to put their hand in the air? Okay, that's 10 in favor, so I'll call that carried. Thank you. So back to the amendment, the main motion, back, Councillor Kentner, did you have a point?
There we go. I just don't understand, after all the time it has taken to deal with this and all the effort put into the delegation, why we're postponing actually, implementing these changes. Like I would hope it can just be done as expeditiously as reasonable. And it just seems like it is being put off to just fit our schedule. So I just wondered if that's something that, in deference to the people who have, warned us about this on a number of occasions and are concerned about it. I think it would be good if we could act on it just as we normally can, rather than putting it down the road to a juncture where, we'll do that when the time comes. Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Pat, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, we could bring the 4788 bylaw back, and then we'll bring it back again. Like, you're not doing something when you're doing something twice. So, we kind of figured we're bringing 4788 back shortly, January something. We'll put all the changes in together. It is a lot of work to go through the bylaw for the clerks and stuff, but that's really why we put it there. But we can do as many times as you want. But it just comes a point when every time someone requests a speed change, we're going to bring the bylaw back. You wonder how much work that would end up being, or how much it would end up being delays to other things that we're working on.
I'm just looking at the recommendation. Does it call? It just says future update to bylaw 4788. If someone would like to offer another amendment, I'm open to that. Because I think the future you mentioned would be January. Yeah. Okay, not seeing any. I'll ask the. Go ahead. Do you have something, Ross?
Sorry. No, I if it's January, January is not that far away, and I certainly don't expect them to do the work twice. I just didn't quite understand. So thank you for the clarification, Pat.
Very good. Thank you. So we're back to the amended motion, the original motion as amended. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Yeah, that one carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pat. Okay, the next one is non-union compensation policy. Jen Moreau is going to speak to this one. Could I have someone move the motion, please? Councillor McKay and Councillor Pringle. Almost. All righty, Jen, welcome.
Warden Milne and members of County Council, I'm before you to talk about non-union compensation. I apologize, unlike my esteemed colleague, I'm not sure what Wales is doing regarding non-union compensation. So we're only going to talk about Ontario. He's not paying any attention anyway. So on September 14th, I was before you and we discussed non-union compensation project in our market review. And within that report, I asked for direction to bring back a policy that would look after a few matters and keep things on track until such point as we do another review. And this report brings that together as a fulsome report. So the compensation policy itself details how often a compensation review will be done, how staff will maintain the non-union compensation structure between reviews, how we use the non-union job evaluation process, how we would conduct annual salary administration, and how salary administration will be applied during formal acting responsibilities or demotions, and how we will handle internal promotions. You have a copy of the policy attached to the staff report itself, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Jen. Any questions? Not seeing any questions. I will call the question. All those in favor? Is carried. Thank you, Jen. Our final item this morning, or almost final item, is 7E. It's the Committee of the Whole report, deferred motion from our last meeting regarding the proposed housing and green space project at the Georgian Bay Community School track. And our CAO, Kim Wingrove, is going to speak to that one. Kim.
Yes. Good morning, Council. To update you, after our last meeting, and as you directed, I approached the Blue Water District School Board with our interest in the property in Meaford, and they undertook some internal discussions and then got back to me and let me know that they were not interested in any further negotiations at this time with us, and will be proceeding with their own process. So there's nothing further as far as that negotiation to proceed at this time.
So to deal with the motion that was on the floor and was deferred, I'm going to ask Shirley, Councillor Keaveney, if she has a notion to what she would like to do with this motion as the original mover.
Thank you very much, Mr. Warden. And after receiving this update from CAO Wingrove regarding the outcome of discussions with the school board, I will withdraw the motion before us at this point in time. As Kim said, there's no further action that can be taken. So I just want to express my appreciation to Kim and to staff for their efforts in approaching the school board with this matter. And I want to also express my gratitude to members of County Council for their support. As you know, this could have been a great project, I think, as a partnership between Meaford and the County of Grey, but we always knew that this outcome was a possibility. But I'll just close by saying it was worth a try. So thank you, everyone, for your part in this.
Thank you, Shirley. And Ross, you were the seconder for that motion. Are you okay with the withdrawal?
I am. I would second the motion to withdraw and also add my thanks to members of County Council for the support that you gave us here. And I think we still have a model here for a kind of cooperation and a way of addressing the housing crisis in Grey County. and hopefully there will be some further opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Ross. Counselor Body.
It seems to me we're still dealing with a provincial government policy that doesn't make sense. We've got a need for housing, we've got open land, we've got a educational board of provincial education minister or ministry decision that they should get fair market value. That makes totally sense in some circumstances, but in a situation where a municipality or a different level of government is trying to buy land that was bought for $10 per acre, whatever, in 1852. I don't know the numbers, but a long time ago, to get fair market value when we need housing, it seems to me that there is one heck of a disconnect here. And I wonder if we shouldn't be writing to Minister of Municipal Affairs and to Education saying, can you look at this policy and perhaps even intervene in a specific situation like this? Overall, the policy needs to change to account for municipalities trying to build housing, but I think they've got to be able to intervene in a situation like this. And I think it's a disconnect.
Well, I certainly wouldn't disagree. And although I would parse a little bit from Councillor Keaveney's remarks, I don't believe this is the end of the conversation. Even if the school board goes to market, there may or may not be a buyer at whatever price they think they're going to get to. But in the interim, absolutely, we need to advocate that this isn't right. And I doubt very much if we're the only ones in this situation. I'm sure this situation has happened in other places. So absolutely, I think we need to advocate, and we will. Councillor McQueen.
Well, thank you, Mr. Warden. And I sort of echo the comments from Mayor of Owen Sound to say that I wasn't here during the last meeting, but I sort of would say not to withdraw it, because I think, as you know, we had a number of years back an issue with a school in Markdale that we had to be very much an advocacy in the sense of supporting it being or moving forward. My point is, Mr. Warden, is and I guess through you to the CAO, the comment that came back was from the director of the Blue Water School Board, or did it go in front of the board? My thinking is maybe we need to do a delegation in front of the board. The simple fact is, this is a unique situation about affordable housing. It's got to have some merit on that part. And so, yeah, you can get it for the highest dollar, but at the end of the day, what's the win-win? And so I might have a comment back, but I just wanted, the comment came back from the director or from the chair, or how did it come back from the sense of this not interested, or they got to go through this process?
Thank you for the question, Councillor McQueen. And it is my understanding that the matter was put on the agenda of a committee, and I want to say business operations, and I know that's not quite correct, but it did go to a committee of the board to be discussed on, I think it was September the 5th. I will also note to council that we have in the past had discussions either with our elected representatives or with the provincial ministry directly. We, at the time of the Sydenham purchase, we had a number of discussions on this matter. We did delegate at AMO on this, and we did speak to the MPP earlier this summer, indicating our interest and our hope that we would be able to move a project forward. And unfortunately, we weren't successful in that. So.
Thank you for that, Madam CEO. So it sounds like something that us from the Great Highlands area and around had some familiar experiences with the board, with the decision of the Markdale School. It was in front of the board, they made the decision. It took a lot of advocacy, and then all of a sudden something changed. And I feel, for banging my finger here, but I feel that this is something that I think Shirley and others around this table, we do have a school board that's elected to represent Ray Bruce. I don't know if there's been a follow-up to those representatives, but I think I really think that this, from what I know about this and what was presented last meeting is this makes a lot of sense. And so I propose that don't drop it and make a delegation request in front of that board, whether it's the warden and the mayor of Meaford or whatever, because sometimes you gotta, you just don't take no for an answer. You gotta step up and you gotta make those comments. And I strongly feel that we hear it, we know it, we even the province is saying this. So why wouldn't they not support something that's a multiple partnership from a, I mean, yes, I guess it hasn't been deferred, but say, if there was in principle, the idea of a county and a lower tier working together, who's the last one in at that discussion would be the province, right? So why wouldn't we work forward to that? I mean, that's what you like to see is partnership, municipal and all that kind of stuff. So I put it out there for other discussion that I think there needs to be something. Let's not just take no for an answer and they got to go through the process. I think we need to push a little bit here. I look for other comments.
If I can add, I do believe that at the present time, the regulatory environment does require the school board to obtain what they call fair market value. And so if there's a situation where potentially there's, multiple appraisals or whatever, and they feel that they're in a position to secure a higher value than what another party might be willing to pay. I feel that potentially their hands are tied. We benefited from at the time of the Sydenham purchase, there was a provincial program that we were able to take advantage of that allowed us some room to negotiate or an avenue to have those different discussions. I'm not aware that there's anything like that available to us right now. It doesn't mean that there's any harm at all in having further conversations. I think, anytime we continue to make this situation and the problems it creates for us known, the better and the more potential it is that we'll get that regulatory environment adjusted in the future. But I do think that's really the foundation of the decision that committee made was really about the fact that they're just bound by the regulation at this time.
So just to finish, thanks for those comments. So I guess it's about a business plan, and a business plan could say, yeah, we'll sell it for the highest bidder. They put housing for profit. That's a good business plan. But the other business plan could be what we're talking about here is a business plan that's working from upper and lower tier municipal government with a plan to work forward or move forward with affordable housing. That's a business plan. And I think, maybe the policy doesn't receive business plans, but I think that's a different business plan that needs to be presented, whether it has merit or it gets the attention. But I don't know, from my experience with the Blue Water School Board, I'm not sure if those meetings are recorded. Can we go back and watch that meeting, or is it like you said September 5th? And is that what you said, September 5th? It was in front of the school board? Sorry.
Yeah.
Councillor McHenry.
Thank you, Mr. Warden, and through you. Then I think we need a motion to to make the Minister of Housing and the Minister of Education both aware of the opportunity here and the roadblock. And just ask them for clarification whether this is really in the best interests of, and especially when the province is pushing to, move heaven and earth to get more houses built.
Thank you, Ross. We currently have a motion on the floor to withdraw, so I'll just get you to sit tight on that one for a second. So we have a motion to withdraw, and I would suggest it is in order because, of course, staff did do what was directed in the motion originally, and it came back. It's kind of a moot point now. So I will ask if there's any further comments on the motion to withdraw. Councillor Gregg.
Thank you. And through you, Warden, just a quick comment. Councillor Kivini had a good motion here, and the intentions are really well thought out in terms of the staff report coming back. And last meeting I had some issues with the procedural component, but I really like the staff report component to this. Is future reporting on this type of an initiative something that we could expect to be an outcome of the housing summit? Or what might staff's plans be in terms of future reporting back on properties that we may wish to pursue that or partnerships in the foreseeable future, understanding it's such a high need?
Good question. Who wants to take a run at that one? Randy, go ahead.
In terms of opportunities that may arise, obviously those come up from time to time, and obviously trying to bring those forward through the proper process so that potential partners and council is obviously aware and can provide direction in terms of whether or not to pursue those opportunities or not. I just would note that there is still some work being done with respect to surplus lands that are currently owned by either county or municipal properties. And so that report we're hoping to bring back to the next, I believe the next Community Services Committee meeting in terms of potential next steps of moving some forward with some of that work or not, based on some of the costs associated with trying to get some of those lands shovel ready, or looking at opportunities for how we can best utilize those properties going forward, recognizing that they're a true asset and can maybe help address some of those deeply affordable housing needs that we know exist throughout our communities.
Okay, Councillor DeBreen.
Thank you, through you, Warden. And I just wonder, I know that the motion on is to withdraw. And to create a new motion would be contravention of procedure, but it wouldn't prohibit someone bringing a notice of motion at the next meeting to direct staff to create a delegation to advocate to the province, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, if I'm correct. Nothing prohibits that from happening, and it might be something that would be encouraged and possibly supported, I think, around this table. I did have a question, and I don't believe that it can be answered, but who determines fair market value? If one has, the seller has an elevated sense, or realtor who's given them an elevated value, and a buyer who has come back to the table with, we have a fair market value determined by our realtor. And I'm not asking for an answer, but just saying.
I dare say it's willing buyer, willing seller. Councillor Body.
Sorry to delay, it's probably a question from Ms. Warder. Threading the needle here. We had a motion in closed, and we have this motion which was in public that was deferred. This removes the one that was in public deferred, but does not affect the one that was in closed.
Yeah, the direction that was given to staff at the closed meeting, last meeting, has been undertaken, and there's nothing, it's tied up and finished now. There's nothing further to that.
Okay, we're back to the motion to withdraw. Call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Now that completes our regular agenda. Now we come back to consent item 6A. Was that correct? 6A? Yes. So I need a mover and seconder for 6A. Councillor Matrosovs. Councillor Pringle, thank you very much. Councillor Gregg, did you wish to speak to that, please?
Yes, please. My comments are that a week ago, council's provided a list of various consent items, of which councillors may have an opportunity to pick any of those items and then ask for them to be on the council agenda. This one firstly caught my eye as to why it's just a piece of correspondence that got treated differently than the other half dozen items, for example, that were canvassed with. And then secondly, why the county would take a position to not just receive the correspondence unless county council made a decision then to support or further, because I think the default should be just to receive, and then it should be up to council. I mean, everybody is united here in terms of wanting to pay as much as we can for wages across the board, public, private. But I do have a problem with the simplicity of the motion in itself from Grimsby. Unless we're a room full of tax accountants who probably know tax tables off the back of your hand and are well-versed in federal income supports on top of provincial income supports, then I feel like what we're given for information in the motion's just not comprehensive enough in terms of forming a position. I think our role as counselors is to be as well informed as we can. And this motion has much greater, far broader macroeconomic impacts than just to take a simple position of we support a living wage at X, because it is a very big conversation. I don't think the document is sufficient of that. So I would move an amendment that we just receive the item for information.
Okay, there's been a motion to amend to receive. Is there a seconder? Councillor McKay. Any discussion on the amendment? All those in favor? That is carried. So now we're back to the amended, or the original motion as amended to simply receive. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Okay. We have no closed meeting matters. Is there any, sorry, Councillor Body.
Sorry, I just note after we left the notice of motion, I believe we're going to come back to Councillor Kentner for his motion that would have been part of that notice of motion, so it wouldn't need for that motion, so it wouldn't need a notice, I wouldn't think, but we kind of skipped past it, and I thought he was going to move something. I'm maybe putting everyone on the spot, but that was my understanding. So we moved on the calendar before you went back to him, in the schedule.
I believe when we, after Councillor DeBreen's remarks, was that at a future point, if someone could raise a notice of motion to deal with the matter at hand. So that's kind of how it was left. I believe that was your proposal. Yeah. So that's kind of where it was left. So, I mean, at any time, you know, and we're almost there where I'm going to ask if there's any notices of motion.
And here we are. I would definitely like to make a motion, and I appreciate the Councillor Body's prodding on this. And I heard it in the room earlier, actually from the media that, and the suggestion was, in fact, and this needs to be researched, that property may in fact have been donated to the school board at the original time. I have no idea about that, but I think we need to investigate that. But I think we ought to be sending a letter to the ministers of housing and education to point out the not just the kind of silliness of the present ruling, but also the fact that there's a case in point here in Owen Sound where you know, an effort to support the province's drive for more housing is being, you know, foreclosed.
Okay. Sorry, I shut your microphone off. I apologize. Go ahead. I thought you were finished. Go ahead.
So that's just a notice of motion, and we'll bring forward a motion at the next meeting. Is that what you're saying?
I guess what I'm asking is if you'd rather wait and make a notice of motion, that's fine, or if you'd rather propose a motion right now, that's fine too.
I'm getting a red light, but the way they made these microphones, you can't see the red light there. Yeah, I would like to make that motion right at this point in time.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder? Counselor McQueen?
We would like the motion to actually call on the ministers to intervene so that, this can be rectified.
There, he shut the microphone off this time. And I have a seconder in Counselor McQueen. So any discussion? Counselor DeBreen?
Through you, Warden Milne, and to the mover and seconder, intervene. But would there be an opportunity, to your point, that that we might be able to do a little bit of investigation beforehand as to whether or not the property was indeed originally donated? Might give us leverage, as well as perhaps speaking to our fair market value that we did seek.
Yeah, I think it would behoove us to do a little bit of research before we send the letter, of course, and make sure we're on solid ground, so to speak. Counselor McQueen?
So to intervene, or how it's worded, I think it's typed up here, but I was told, or have been told, and others have been told, that I know a lot of times you make a delegation, you usually do it at Amo or you do it at Roma, but I've also been told that you can make a delegation at any time. So I think there's a timing issue here, and I would say that, I don't know if the mover would make a small amendment or not. I'm just throwing it out there, but that delegation request be made.
Certainly that could be part of the letter. Here's our case, and we'd like to meet with you about it. Right? No, absolutely not. You're okay with that, Ross? Yes. Okay, Counselor Body.
My only response would be to Councillor Dobine that I'm not sure we need to wait for the research to send the letter. I think we get at her and ask for the delegation, ask for them to intervene, and do our research while we're preparing.
Okay. Let's get at her. All right. Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ross. Sure you can. Go ahead. Madam Clerk, if you do the roll, please.
Counselor Mackey,
In favor.
Counselor Mackey in favor, Counselor McKay. Counselor McKay in favor, Counselor Carlton. Counselor Carlton in favor, Counselor Pringle. Counselor Pringle in favor, Counselor McQueen. Counselor McQueen in favor, Counselor Nielsen. Counselor Nielsen in favor, Counselor Patterson. Counselor Patterson in favor, Counselor Dickert. Counselor Dickert in favor, Counselor Kentner. Counselor Kentner is in favor, Counselor Keaveney.
In favor.
Counselor Keaveney is in favor, Counselor Body. Counselor Body in favor, Counselor Gregg. Counselor Gregg is in favor, Warden Milne.
In favor.
Warden Milne in favor, Counselor Dobreen. Counselor Dobreen in favor, Counselor Matrosovs. Counselor Matrosovs in favor, Counselor Borneo.
In favor.
Counselor Borneo in favor, Counselor Echols. Counselor Echols in favor, Counselor Hutchinson.
In favor.
Counselor Hutchinson in favor. That is carried unanimously 96-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Any closed meeting matters? Don't believe so. Any other business? Notice of motion? One further motion. Counselor Borden, do you want to get in the game here? Do you want to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Warden.
Thank you, sir. Who would like to second that? Counselor Hutchison would. There you go. Any discussion? All those in favor? That is carried. I'm advised that lunch is here, has been here for a small period